Animosity is our final team in Pool C, formerly known as Team Divinely. This team mostly consists of German players that have found their way to open events by winning the German national qualifiers. They finished top 16 at Miami, and I had a chance to sit down and talk with Cookie about their chances and their strengths potentially leading into Pool C and maybe being a surprise threat in this episode of 32 and 32. COD fans, welcome back. IHOLDSHIFT with you guys. It's a pleasure being here again. We're running right through this. This is the last video, and then we'll be halfway through our 32 on 32. Seems weird to say that, but we got a lot to talk about with this one because Animosity is a squad that, honestly, I think when people look at Pool C, they're immediately writing them off as being 0-3. And initially, my thoughts were a similar storyline, to be completely candid. But I want to give you guys at least some history on this squad. I had also a chance to talk to Cookie about this team in specific as far as their chances, their hopes, and where they're kind of finding their strengths and potential weaknesses coming through the entirety of this event coming up. So we go back, and I want to start, just take a look at this pool. It's a difficult one, right? I mean, you've got just so many asks here. You've got FaZe Clan, Units, and Mazer. One of the top teams in the CWL, period. Units, a European squad that are now practicing in North America and are getting better and better every single week. And then Mazer Gaming, again, full of a bunch of former pros that are going to be sitting and getting a lot of great practice as potentially the best North American team from the open bracket. Animosity, they're stuck at the moment. They're sitting in the EU, trying to get as much practice as possible. It's been hard to come by, I imagine. I mean, we've heard that from a couple different teams. We heard it from Fuego. We heard it from War. We heard it from just about everybody we've talked to that has been in the EU region. So it's not any different for Animosity Esports. I want to go backwards, though, before we start looking into this roster specifically. As we'll just take a look at their history right now. This is a squad that has been sitting with at least 4 of the 5 moving parts going into Miami for the entirety of the year. Going back to the PLQ, it was a top 64 finish for Cookie, Phantom, Piero, and Sharko through Final Gaming. They were not able to qualify through the German national qualifiers at Fort Worth. Then they come back to London, and it's not Phantom in the mix, but it's Cookie, Piero, Sharko, and Pazzi for a top 8 finish. It was top 24 for Phantom, who played for Fuego. And then going into Anaheim, again, not qualified. They will then go through the national qualifier for Miami, and it's a top 16 finish there. I want to go backwards, though, and just talk about this roster because, again, off the bat, and you hear this from Cookie a bunch, this is a roster that was able to qualify for Vegas with Piero, Cookie, Sharko, and Phantom, but it was Kiwi who was in the mix as the 5th that time around. You go to Fort Worth, this team finished 2nd place, and instead of Kiwi, they played with a player named Cranky. It was Cookie, Piero, Sharko, and Pazzi. So again, a couple of swap-ups as far as the roster went, but they were finishing 2nd as they came behind Kreza, Phantom, who again had played, and a couple other players that were not represented. You then go to London. They're still with Final Gaming initially, and they able to qualify with Cookie, Piero, Sharko, Pazzi, and a player named T-Piece. Kiwi and Phantom were on the 2nd place team. Are you noticing a little bit of a trend here? It's either 1st or 2nd for all of these players. Then you get to Anaheim. Similar story, but it's Cookie, Phantom, Piero, Sharko, and T-Pazzi. Not able to get through. They finished 2nd place. Kiwi, the player that was dropped, finishes in 3rd that time around as Chalkster is starting to make himself some waves. He was the one able to finish 1st. And then you finally get back to the Miami qualifiers, and then the team finally qualifies. They have a coach on their mix, and they're able to finish top 16. So this is an interesting squad because of the history that they've been through. A lot of these players have played together through the majority of this year, but it hasn't necessarily merited them instant success. When I was going back and doing my Miami predictions as far as top open teams to watch for, this squad wasn't on my list because they were having a hard time qualifying in what a lot of people would consider to be a very weak region through their national qualifiers. It's like kind of like qualifying out of the open from Australia. You know, outside of Mindfreak, you know, there really isn't too much consideration. Vertex and Scars are like the only 2 other teams that are out there. And I think a lot of people would say that even the Australian scene is technically more difficult than playing in the German scene. This is why I had them kind of down initially. However, this squad made one heck of a loser's bracket run. Again, kind of going to my same accord when I saw this team in round number 2 lose to Firesticks Gaming, who at the time, nobody knew who was on that team and who they were really. No one was paying them any attention really whatsoever. You lose to that squad in winner's bracket round 2, and I immediately said, well, Team Divinely's out. They're just not going to make it. They would then put together an incredible losers bracket run where they were able to go through RBL Academy in losers round 3. They beat the number 3 Australian team in Scars 2-1 in 3 games. Then they would beat the FaZe Clan, who looked pretty decent in their time during the winners bracket in losers round 5. Then they would go to the qualifying round in the losers bracket up against In Control Gaming, a squad that I had on my list saying that this squad was going to qualify. It would go to 5, and Team Divinely would be able to win it, getting them to the top 16 form. They would then play Carnage Gaming, and they would take them to Game 5. So this is a squad that you kind of look back at their results from Miami, and they got better. They got a lot better, and very quickly, too, because they were going through, and again, losing to Firesticks Gaming. Again, it was a 2-0 against Firesticks Gaming. Then to start being able to go through and find yourself some favor against some other pretty solid teams in the open bracket, and then to be able to take In Control to 5 and Carnage to 5 is pretty impressive. Again, Carnage was a team that was able to finish in the top 8, so not bad. Again, the fact that they were able to take them the distance is actually pretty awesome. So my faith in this squad has risen a lot with their more recent results. Now, I had a chance to sit down and talk to Cookie about this squad and get a little bit more of an inside look as far as this roster and the journey that they've been able to take in this episode of You Have My Attention. Enjoy. Welcome back to You Have My Attention. I've got Cookie here from not Team Divinely anymore. It is Animosity if you missed the organizational change. Cookie, you have my attention. I just got to get to know, again, there's a lot of familiarity with this roster. We were talking just before we fired up the recording about how it's been a kind of a combination of these 5 guys throughout the majority of the year in one way or another. But more importantly, you and Phantom Piero and Sharko had experience together all the way back to Vegas. You picked Phantom up here more recently. Kind of talked about what is the kind of key success towards this roster as you guys have been kind of powering through the German qualifiers for most of the events.
Well, in the beginning of the year, we played with Kiwi. Like us 4, we played with Kiwi. Probably most of the guys watching know him. So yeah, we went to Vegas and we didn't really perform that well. It was quite a disappointing finish for us. So after that, we made a roster change, and back then we picked up Percy, who basically just turned 18 last year, and yeah, has been on the come up since then. And yeah, I would say like since then, I think in Vegas our roles weren't like matching that well. So after we picked up Percy, who was a really good SMG player in my opinion, I think the roles just worked out way better. And after that, it was basically just perfecting it. We picked up TPs after that, after a while. And yeah, with that 5-man roster, we played really well in London. I think, yeah, we were a really good team back then. But sadly, TPs he couldn't attend Miami and Champs because of his work.
Okay.
So yeah, that's why we had to swap him for Phantom. In the beginning, it wasn't going that well because TPs was an AR player and we picked up an SMG Maddox type of player. But yeah, after a bit of like adjustment period, I switched to the ICR. I think we sorted our things out, and I think we played pretty well in Miami. We obviously qualified for Champs. But yeah, after that, we've been scrimming the last couple of weeks. It's actually been pretty hard to scrim the last week or so because there are not a lot of EU teams going. So yeah, but I think we've improved on our issues a bit, and yeah.
It's actually interesting. I was talking with Mad Cat, and he was kind of saying the same sentiments about it's been very difficult to find other European teams to scrim. Yeah. Their situation a little bit more diverse because they have Team War in their pool. But going into your Miami time, it was interesting because you guys came in as the number 18 seed, and it was actually a winners round 2 loss to you guys to the squad of Firesticks Gaming. So you guys had to go to the losers bracket very, very early. But you ended up getting all the way to the qualifying round against In Control Gaming, which you were able to find that Game 5 win. Kind of take me through like the mindset of what it is to have to make such a long losers bracket run just to get to top 16.
Well, obviously we didn't expect to lose in winners round 2.
Sure.
But I think our issue was that we didn't really know what was the good maps and what were bad maps. So, and like another thing was like the more we played on LAN, the better we got, I feel like. So yeah, just playing a lot of loser matches, it really helped us get better as a team. And yeah, we basically got better and better the longer we played on the LAN. So yeah, losing was obviously tough, but I don't know. I always felt confident that we could make the losers one. Because I felt like after we lost, we learned a lot of things and we figured out stuff that we didn't know before. So yeah, and after we got in like a bit of a roll, the first 2 loser matches I think were really quick. I think then we played Vertex, that's Bazo's team.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, we won that one 2-1, I think. So yeah, we basically just kept going. We got better and better. And yeah, the last game against in control for champs. We actually started down 0-2, as you said. But I think that was just like a mistake in the veto process for us. We played Arsenal twice in the beginning and we aren't really good on that map. So yeah, that we just messed up there. But on the other 3 maps, we clutched up and ended up qualifying.
Now, you're talking a lot about you guys kind of figuring out your map pool in specific. Has there also been a lot of maybe adjustments as far as who is running what type of weapons or specialist as well? Or was that kind of like your kind of go-to? We knew who was going to run which roles going into Miami?
No, it's actually the thing we figured out after losing, I think. We basically started using 3 SMGs on most maps.
Sure.
Phantom switched from a Maddox to SMG basically for the full time, because the hit scan SMG was just so good on LAN. So yeah, we made that adjustment and it worked really well for us.
So going into Pool C, you guys have FaZe Clan, Units, and Mazer Gaming. Again, a pretty high-throttled pool when it comes to the speed that kind of comes involved with that. I mean, you're dealing with a really solid front line of SMGs from FaZe Clan, and Units has actually been doing very well in Hardpoint, and Mazer Gaming are also showing that with the experience that they have, that Hardpoint and Respawn as a whole is kind of their strengths. Do you guys feel like when you're preparing for these matchups, it's more of you guys need to play your own game, or do you try to go in and make sure that those teams feel as uncomfortable as possible by picking a map they might not be as good at?
It's actually a tough question. I'm not too sure what we're gonna do. I obviously don't want to give away what we want to do.
Right,
but,
sure.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know actually.
So would you guys say, like, after with the SMG kind of being, that you guys are already triple SMGs, do you guys feel like Respawn is potentially one of your best modes as a whole, or do you guys still feel really strongly about your experience in Search and Destroy as a team?
I think it's like a lot of, like in Miami, we didn't really have like a clear-cut best mode, I would say. It was really depending on the map and on the opponent. So I think if you look at the win percentage, it was like pretty even across all modes. Just like, yeah, like I said, it's map and opponent depending.
Fair enough, fair enough. Now, kind of going back, just last question here for you. Again, it's been kind of an interesting journey because you've been playing with the same core 3 guys all the way through. Do you kind of feel like you guys kind of share the responsibility when it comes to kind of making up your decisions as far as not only what the roster was going to be throughout the entirety of the year, but essentially like when you decide like, hey, let's run triple SOGs, who kind of is that IGL for your guys' squad, and how do you guys kind of use that trio as your kind of a successful push towards making that run towards champs?
I think we don't really have like a clear-cut IGL, but if there was one, it was probably me. Because I'm the oldest guy, I've played competitive for the longest time. So yeah, if there was one, it was me. But to be honest, we all make in-game calls, and S&D especially. We all everyone just, if he has an idea, he brings it up and we try to execute it. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, Cookie, thank you so much for taking the time for me again. Best of luck to you guys again. If you're not familiar with Team Animosity, again, formerly Team Divinely, one of the German squads that have been running through the German qualifiers all the way through. Best of luck to you guys when you guys get to Pool C and World Champs. So you kind of hear some of the struggles that Cookie was talking about as well when it comes down to not only the roster, but also more currently the practice that this team's been able to get, or lack of practice this team's been able to get, as there's only a couple of options available to them. And again, it's one of those things that we're hearing from a lot of these teams that finished anywhere between the top 16 and even top 8, that they're all still learning what roles they want to play and what maps they're strongest at. And those things, again, that's where I look at the difference between a pro league team and an open team, as far as that's a huge gap that you have to make up in such a short amount of time. And that's one of the proponents of why I want there to be longer standing open bracket stuff or open team formats or leagues or something where these teams can get more of time playing together besides just, hey, let's get a team together to qualify. Hey, we qualify. Let's play this tournament. Hey, we made the tournament qualifier for the World Championships. Like, it just is such a matter of happenstance, and I want there to be more formalized practice and a different culture when it comes to the amateur scene as a whole, because these problems would not be nearly as existent as they are. That's why it's very hard for me to take a look at Animosity when they're going through not only what roles are we playing, what weapons are we using, but what maps we're playing on. Do they really have a chance against a team like Units and FaZe Clan? Because they're going to have to beat one of the two of them if they want to have a shot at actually making it out of the bracket. And honestly, again, my hopes are not super, super high. You take a look, even with Mazer Gaming, that roster is so loaded in just the experience and raw mechanics alone. You would think there'd be an advantage for Mazer Gaming. So my expectations are not super high for this Animosity squad, but I've been surprised by these guys before, and I would not be essentially writing it out of the equation as far as them being surprised again for at least a top 24 finish. They absolutely could beat some of these squads here. They have a lot of experience with one another. It just comes down to figuring out what exactly works best for their team. I'm wishing them all the best. I hope they have a really good performance and they can start to, you know, throw some consideration their way by taking down a team or making some close sets happen. Really, really excited. Again, thanks to Cookie for hanging out with me in the interview. And that's going to do it for this one. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. We'll be jumping into the next pool with our next set of videos. So again, if you're out there and you're enjoying these, retweet the video link. I'm on Twitter posting every single one. Retweet it, comment, tag some friends that you think might be interested in this. Let's get this channel really popping off. Until the next one, though, hope you guys keep holding it down. Later, later. Bye-bye.